There's a feeling that has destroyed more potential than failure ever has. It's called motivation. Every January, millions ride that surge of certainty. By February, 40% have already stopped. Not from weakness, from biology. Motivation spikes, crashes, and leaves nothing but guilt. Discipline doesn't just beat it. It runs on an entirely different system inside your brain. And the gap between those two systems is where most people's lives quietly stall. 40%. That's the number carved into the calendar before the year even finds its rhythm. By February, nearly half of all resolutions have already crumbled. It doesn't matter if the goal was fitness, writing, or a promise to finally sleep. The pattern repeats, a rush of energy, a burst of hope. Then, almost overnight, the air goes out. What begins as certainty dissolves into skipped days, shortened sessions, and the quiet slide into old routines. There's a science to this collapse. Researchers tracking thousands of people found the same curve, year after year. The first 2 weeks bring a surge, dopamine, optimism, the high of new beginnings. By the third week, the sessions get shorter. By the fourth, the excuses grow louder than the plan. Most never see March. The aftermath is familiar. A sinking feeling, the guilt of another dropped promise, and the quiet self-accusation. Maybe I'm just not built for this. But it isn't weakness. It's a system failure. The cycle is so predictable it can be plotted on a graph. Yet the cause remains hidden, a question waiting to be answered by something deeper than willpower. Inside the brain, discipline is not a feeling. It is a sequence, wired, rehearsed, and carved into neural circuitry. Anne Grabiel's lab at MIT tracked this process down to the spike of a single neuron. In the early days of practice, the prefrontal cortex works overtime, analyzing every move, burning energy with each decision. But with repetition, something shifts. The striatum, buried deep in the basal ganglia, takes over. Actions that once demanded effort become automatic, immune to the daily rise and fall of mood. Gamma band power, a marker of neural learning, spikes in the first sessions, then fades as habits lock in. The brain hands off control, freeing up willpower for other battles. Deliberate practice works the same way. Anders Ericsson's research found that elite musicians, athletes, and chess players rack up over 10,000 hours of structured, feedback-driven repetition. A meta-analysis of 71 studies showed that deliberate practice explains up to 26% of performance in games, 21% in music, and 18% in sports, numbers that dwarf the effect of raw motivation. British cycling's 1% improvement doctrine, where every detail is refined by a fraction, turned marginal gains into a tidal wave of world records. These routines are not glamorous. They are scaffolds, built to hold when inspiration collapses. The real advantage is not feeling ready. It is having a system that keeps moving, even when the mind wants to quit. Dawn breaks cold and silent. Katie Ledecky stands by the pool, goggles in hand, every movement measured, every breath part of a sequence drilled into her bones. Her coach's log for July 16, 2023 is nearly identical to 100 others. A 5:15 wake-up, oatmeal and egg whites, 6:30 in the water. The ritual is unbroken. No phone, no music, just the rhythm of muscle and mind. Before the World Championship final, she moves through her 3-step pre-race routine. A 200-meter warm-up at 70%, 8 slow breaths, a slap of the lane line. These are not habits. They are armor. Suddenly, the lights flicker and cut out. A power failure. The race stalls, seconds stretching into uncertainty. Around her, athletes fidget, pace, shake out their nerves. Ledecky stands still, heart rate steady, eyes fixed. The delay is 30 seconds, but her system holds. When the start finally comes, she launches into the water, her split times matching the rehearsal, down to the 10th of a second. She touches the wall first, gold medal in hand, her performance immune to chaos. The logbook records it. Identical splits, no deviation, routine stronger than any surge of adrenaline. In the aftermath, the pool is loud, but her discipline is silent, unshaken. The system wins, unmoved by stress, untouched by surprise. A national rowing crew stands on the edge of their Olympic dream. The qualifying line is only seconds away, but their split times drift, 4% slower than the mark. The cause is not a lack of talent, it's a crack in the system, invisible until the pressure peaks. 2 missed strength sessions, logged in the coach's diary, ripple through the boat. The rhythm falters. Tiny errors compound. In the final regatta, the crew's stroke rate lags, and the finish time slips past the cutoff. The Olympic berth vanishes. The science behind this collapse is called explicit monitoring. Under stress, the brain abandons automatic skill and turns inward, dissecting every move. Belock and Carr's lab found that even seasoned athletes choke when they start thinking about technique instead of letting habit take the wheel. The neural handoff fails. Cortisol spikes. The striatum's steady hum is drowned out by the noise of self-doubt. A 4% variance doesn't sound fatal, until it is. In elite sport, that margin is the difference between a flag on your chest and a silent ride home. When motivation is the only anchor, pressure can cut the rope. The system breaks. The dream dissolves. Silence follows. The empty water reflects faces that came for glory and left with questions. What survives when motivation shatters? Only what's built to endure the storm. A person does not become disciplined by accident. The truth is quieter, stranger, and far more permanent. Repeated acts, done in the cold, in silence, without applause, start to rewrite the story of who you are. The psychologist Daryl Bem called it self-perception. When the mind is uncertain, it watches the body for clues. Each time you wake before the alarm, lace up shoes in the dark, or show up when no one else does, you are not just performing a task, you are casting a vote for a new identity. In the lab, this isn't theory. Studies on voting, gym attendance, even small pro-environmental acts show the same pattern. People who take action, even once, begin to see themselves differently. The loop is simple. Behavior first, identity second, commitment third. The more often you act like a disciplined person, the more you believe you are one. And the more that belief hardens, the less effort it takes to keep going. But the framing matters. Psychologist Daphne Oyserman found that people who treat difficulty as a sign of importance, not impossibility, show higher self-esteem and more persistence over time. In her study of nearly 3,000 daily diaries, those who saw challenge as meaningful became more resilient, less likely to quit when the work turned heavy. The shift is subtle, but irreversible. Discipline is no longer something you do, it's someone you are. The act becomes the evidence. The evidence builds the identity. And identity, once forged, becomes the anchor when every other reason fails. 3 levers can hardwire discipline so deeply that even chaos cannot shake it. The first is deceptively simple. If, then, planning. Psychologist Peter Gollwitzer called these implementation intentions microscripts for the mind. If the alarm rings at 5 a.m., then shoes hit the floor. If nerves spike before a race, then slow breathing begins. Across more than 600 studies, people who wrote if-then plans were twice as likely to follow through as those who relied on willpower alone. In health, relationships, and high-stakes work, the effect size lands between 0.28 and 0.65, enough to change the odds, even when motivation vanishes mid-week. Pre-commitment is the second lever, binding yourself to a future action before temptation arrives. Behavioral economists studied this through deposit contracts. Put money on the line, and the risk of loss becomes sharper than the lure of comfort. Stick-K, a digital platform built on this principle, found that users who set real stakes, money, and accountability partners were far more likely to hit their targets than those who made private promises. The threat of loss is not a punishment. It is a firewall, protecting the disciplined self from the future self who wants to quit. When the stakes are visible, the behavior locks in. The third lever is graded pressure, training the mind to perform under rising stress, not just in calm. In sport and military psychology, stress inoculation drills push the system to the edge, then teach recovery. Meta-analyses show a moderate, reliable effect. Performance anxiety drops. Resilience climbs. The brain learns to treat pressure as a cue, not a threat. Each exposure thickens the armor. When the real test comes, the system does not break. It fires on command. Discipline is not a single act. It is a structure, crafted, reinforced, stress-tested. If-then scripts, binding stakes, and graduated pressure become the scaffolding. The result is not just adherence. It is a new kind of certainty. When the world spins, the system holds. Pressure strips away pretense. What is left is identity, not intention. In a world addicted to quick fixes, only discipline survives the noise. Right now, research shows over 80% abandon their goals within weeks. The real contest is not inspiration. It is who you become when no one is watching. Stay relentless.